My name is Vanessa Green. I'm 32 years old, and the moment that changed everything happened on a rainy Tuesday morning. The day my sister Lily screamed, "You're joking!" so loudly the neighbors came outside. I stood at the bottom of the staircase in my parents' house, clutching my suitcase, my coat drenched from the storm. My heart was beating in that slow, heavy way it does when you've finally given up. I had spent the entire night writing a letter, my final truth, my final goodbye, and left it on the kitchen table next to the cracked fruit bowl my mother refused to throw away. I didn't think they'd read it so quickly, but Lily did. Her voice echoed through the house like a slammed door. "Mom? Dad? Tell me this isn't real. Tell me she's lying." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just listened. Because for once, the truth I carried alone for 14 years was no longer buried inside me. My parents rushed into the hallway behind her, their faces pale. My mother's hand trembled as she held the letter, every word I wrote in those shaky midnight hours now vibrating in the air between us. Lily's eyes were wild, red, confused. You used her name? You used her credit? And you gave the money to me?" She pressed the paper against her chest like she could crush the truth out of it. My father opened his mouth, but no sound came out. It was the first time I'd ever seen him speechless. My mother whispered, "Lily, please calm down." But Lily wasn't calming down. If anything, she was just beginning. "Calm down? Calm down? You destroyed Vanessa's life for me. For me. And you didn't tell me?" She spun toward me, her voice breaking. "Vanessa, why didn't you say anything?" There it was. The one question I had never been able to answer, not even to myself. Maybe because I wanted a family more than I wanted justice. Maybe because I was 18 when it happened and believed them when they said it was a mistake they would fix. Maybe because I thought one day they would love me enough to make it right. But standing there, soaked, tired, and finally empty, I found my voice. I didn't say anything because I knew none of you would listen. Her face shifted, guilt, disbelief, heartbreak, all crashing into each other. My father sighed deeply, the kind of sigh that told me he was about to make himself the victim. "Vanessa, must you do this now, in this dramatic way?" Dramatic. That word was my childhood. I wiped my cheek with the back of my hand. Not tears, just rainwater. "I'm leaving. I only came to drop off the letter." Lily stepped down 2 stairs, reaching out to me. "Vanessa, please don't leave like this. We can fix it. I swear we can fix it." But I'd spent 14 years waiting for those words. 14 years drowning in debt I never created. 14 years being told I must have misunderstood or must have mixed up the papers. 14 years believing the lie that family sacrifices for each other. But family shouldn't sacrifice one member to save another. Before I could answer her, a crack of thunder shook the house. My father folded his arms. "Vanessa, must you do this now, in this dramatic way?" Dramatic. That word was my childhood. I wiped my cheek with the back of my hand. Not tears, just rainwater. "I'm leaving. I only came to drop off the letter." Lily stepped down 2 stairs, reaching out to me. "Vanessa, please don't leave like this. We can fix it. I swear we can fix it." But I'd spent 14 years waiting for those words. 14 years drowning in debt I never created. 14 years being told I must have misunderstood or must have mixed up the papers. 14 years believing the lie that family sacrifices for each other. But family shouldn't sacrifice one member to save another. Before I could answer her, a crack of thunder shook the house. My father folded his arms. Vanessa, you're overreacting. We did what we had to do for the family. There it was. The truth he didn't mean to say out loud. Not for you, Vanessa. For the family. And in this house, family never included me. My mother closed her eyes, tears slipping out. We were struggling. Lily needed tuition. You were always the responsible one. We thought you would understand. Responsible. Another word they stuffed into my mouth until I choked on it. I took a slow breath. I lost 2 apartments because of that credit score. I lost a job offer. I spent my 20s living in fear of phone calls from collection agencies. But yes, I understand perfectly. The lightning flashed again. Silence swallowed the room. That was when I did something none of them expected. I stepped back, lifted the handle of my suitcase, and said, I'm done. My father's jaw tightened. If you walk out of this house? I cut him off. What? I'll stop being your daughter? You made that decision years ago. Lily covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head. Vanessa, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. For a moment, I saw her as the little girl who used to hold my hand crossing the street, who used to beg me to sleep in her room whenever she had nightmares. And then I remembered something else. The way she never questioned why my life kept falling apart. Because she never had to. I turned toward the door. My mother's voice cracked. Where will you go? I said softly, the one place you never let me have. A life of my own. I opened the door, and the cold air rushed in, mixing with the warmth of the house I no longer belonged to. My father called after me. You're being selfish. I paused just long enough to look over my shoulder. For once, I whispered. And then I walked out. The rain hit my face like pins as I stepped onto the driveway. My Uber driver stared at me through the windshield, probably wondering why a grown woman was leaving her parents' house in the middle of a storm with a single suitcase. But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, the storm outside was quieter than the one inside me. As I reached for the car door, I heard footsteps behind me. Vanessa! Lily. She ran out without a coat, her hair plastered to her cheeks. She grabbed my arm, breathless. You don't have to leave, she pleaded. I'll talk to them. I'll fix everything. I'll pay every dollar back. I swallowed. Lily, it's not about the money anymore. She blinked. Then what is it about? The wind whipped between us, and for a second, all I saw was the scared little sister I used to protect. It's about the fact that they chose you over me, I said, and you let them. She stepped back as if I'd slapped her. Vanessa, I never wanted this. I know. And the truth was, I believed her. But belief doesn't undo damage. Before she could speak again, the Uber driver hunked gently. Lily's voice broke. Please don't leave me alone with them. That sentence stopped me cold. The desperation in it, the fear, the truth behind it. For the first time, I heard the loneliness in her. I opened my mouth to ask what she meant when the front door slammed open and my father's voice cut through the rain. Lily, get inside now. His tone wasn't protective. It was controlling. Lily flinched. Actually flinched. Something tightened in my stomach. What was happening inside that house that I never saw? Before I could process it, Lily whispered, Vanessa, please. They're not who you think they are. And then The lights on the porch flickered. My father stepped out, eyes cold. My mother hovered behind him, wringing her hands. "Lily," he repeated, in a tone that sent a chill down my spine. "Now." Lily looked at me one last time, her eyes filled with a truth she was afraid to say out loud. Then she turned and ran back inside. The door slammed behind her, and for the first time in my life, I realized Lily might not be the villain of my story. She might be another victim. The Uber driver leaned out the window. "You coming?" I nodded, numb, pulling my suitcase toward the car. But just as I reached the door, something happened that froze me in place. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. A single sentence. "You don't know the real reason they chose Lily." My heart stopped. And then another message appeared. "Meet me tomorrow. I'll tell you everything." I stared at the screen as the rain pounded the pavement. The sender's name? Aunt Margaret. The one relative who mysteriously cut off contact with our family 13 years ago. Why was she messaging me now? And what truth had she been hiding all these years? I swallowed hard and climbed into the Uber. The real story was just beginning. I barely slept that night. Not because of the storm still rumbling outside, but because of the storm inside me. Aunt Margaret's message kept replaying in my mind on a constant loop. You don't know the real reason they chose Lily. I stared at my ceiling in the dim light of the motel room I checked into after leaving home. The thin blankets felt like paper compared to the heavy reality pressing down on my chest. What reason? What truth did my parents bury so deep that even Lily didn't know? And why did Aunt Margaret disappear all those years ago? My phone buzzed again around 6 a.m. Aunt Margaret. "Sweetheart, meet me at Harper's Cafe at 9. Sit in the back booth. This conversation can't happen over the phone." My pulse skipped. She hadn't called me sweetheart since I was a kid, back when she used to braid my hair and slip peppermints into my pockets when my parents weren't looking. Back before everything in my life started to feel like a puzzle missing its biggest piece. I sat up, rubbed my face, and whispered into the empty room. "Okay, let's do this." Harper's Cafe. Harper's Cafe hadn't changed in the 14 years since I last walked inside. Same rough wooden floors, same chalkboard menu, same woman behind the counter humming old country songs. I found the back booth like Aunt Margaret said. Every second felt like an hour. Then, the bell above the door jingled. A tall woman stepped inside wearing a deep green coat, short silver curls, and the warm but weary face of someone who has lived too much in silence. Aunt Margaret. Her eyes landed on me instantly, and in that moment, something in her expression broke. A mixture of relief, guilt, and a sorrow I didn't understand. She walked to the booth slowly, slid into the seat across from me, and reached for my hands. "Vanessa, you look so much like your grandmother." I swallowed the knot in my throat. "You messaged me. You said you had answers." She exhaled shakily, and the way her fingers trembled told me she'd been waiting years to speak. "I should have come sooner," she said. "But your parents, they made that dangerous." "Dangerous?" My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She looked around the cafe to make sure no one could hear us. Then she leaned in. "Your parents didn't take out that loan in your name because Lily needed it." She paused. "They did it because your father needed it." The words hit me like cold water. "My father? What for?" She hesitated. her eyes dimming. To pay off a debt connected to something he knew would destroy the family if it got out. My chest tightened. What debt? A gamble? A business mistake? Her next words cracked the floor beneath me. No, sweetheart. It was hush money. Hush money for what? Aunt Margaret closed her eyes, like the memory itself hurt. For a woman he was involved with. The room spun. No. No! My father? The man who lectured me about loyalty, responsibility, obedience? I stared at her. He cheated on my mother? Yes, she whispered. For years. And when the woman threatened to go public after he ended things, he panicked. He needed money, fast. Money your mother didn't know about, money he couldn't take from the joint account. And he used my maid? Aunt Margaret nodded slowly. He convinced your mother it was a temporary loan. He told her Lily needed college money and that you'd never find out because he'd pay it back before you turned 21. My throat tightened with the burn that felt like betrayal and humiliation melting together. Why my name? My voice cracked. Why not Lily's? Aunt Margaret's eyes softened with the kind of sadness people carry for years. Because Lily was the golden child. Your mother would have fought him if he tried to use her. But you were the quiet one, the responsible one, the one they believed would understand. There was that word again. Understand. The same excuse they always fed me like medicine I never wanted. A wave of nausea hit me. I didn't even ask me, I whispered. They didn't even give me a chance. Aunt Margaret squeezed my hands. No, honey, they didn't. Anger rose in my throat. Hot, sharp, burning. And my mother? She agreed to this? She did, Aunt Margaret admitted. But your father lied to her, too. He said the woman was blackmailing the family, that he was protecting all of you. I let out a hollow laugh. Protecting us? By destroying my life? Aunt Margaret nodded gently. I know it sounds insane, but your parents were trapped in a lie your father created, and instead of owning it, they let you carry the consequences. I leaned back, pressing a palm over my mouth, feeling my heart beat in my fingertips. 14 years of confusion. 14 years of struggling. 14 years of being told I was irresponsible, unlucky, careless. All because my father couldn't keep his vows. I felt something inside me break, and something else grow in its place. Strength. Clarity. A fire I'd never allowed myself to feel before. I dropped my hand. What about Lily? Did she know? Aunt Margaret shook her head immediately. Your sister had no idea. She only found out yesterday. That's why she reacted the way she did. My chest tightened. I remembered her shaking in the rain. I remembered her saying, "Please don't leave me alone with them." Aunt Margaret, I whispered. Why did Lily say that? What did she mean? This time, something darker passed through her eyes. That house, she said softly, is not safe for either of you. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Aunt Margaret hesitated for a long moment. Then she said the words that made my skin crawl. Your father has been controlling Lily's finances for years, monitoring her accounts, dictating her choices. She's not living the perfect life you think she is. I blinked. What? Lily? She always seemed so Happy? Aunt Margaret finished. That's what people do when they're scared of losing love. They perform happiness. A lump formed in my throat. Why would he control her money? Because she's the one they invested everything in. She's their trophy. They're proof to the world that the Green family is perfect. Your father needs that image, and your mother, she enables it. I stared at the table, dizzy with anger and disbelief. So, while I struggled to pay rent, while I worked 2 jobs to stay afloat, while I felt like a failure for things I didn't even cause, Lily was living a life built on fear? Everyone loses under a lie that big, Aunt Margaret said. I swallowed hard, my voice barely audible. So what now? Aunt Margaret reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, thick, heavy, sealed. This, she said, pushing it toward me, is the real reason I left. These are copies of the documents your father tried to hide. Bank transfers, emails, the hush agreement. My breath caught. Evidence. Proof. My way out. But also, a match that could burn the entire family to the ground. What do you want me to do with this? I whispered. Her eyes locked onto mine. The truth doesn't destroy families. Secrets do. Do what you need to do, Vanessa. Protect yourself. Protect your future. And maybe protect your sister too. I stared at the envelope, feeling its weight like a second heartbeat. Aunt Margaret, thank you. She covered my hand with hers. You deserved the truth a long time ago. Before I could ask her anything else, my phone buzzed on the table. A text message. From Lily. I froze. Vanessa, please. I need to talk to you. Something happened last night after you left. It's serious. Can we meet? My heart pounded. Then another message came through, faster this time. Please hurry. I don't feel safe. My breath caught. Not safe? In that house? I looked up at Aunt Margaret, fear spreading through my veins. She read my expression instantly. What's wrong? I turned the phone toward her. Her face went pale. Vanessa, you need to go to her. Something is very wrong. But before we could stand, another text appeared. This one from a number I didn't recognize. A single sentence. Don't let her leave the house. My blood ran cold. Aunt Margaret stared at the message, horrified. Sweetheart, she whispered shakily, that message didn't come from Lily. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. I stared at the message glowing on my screen. Don't let her leave the house. My sister's name wasn't attached. The number wasn't saved. And the tone. Cold, commanding, possessive. Aunt Margaret grabbed my wrist. Vanessa, we need to move, now. I didn't argue. I shoved the envelope of evidence under my jacket, threw some money on the table, and followed her out into the parking lot. The morning air was sharp and cold, the sky still gray from the night storm. My hands shook as I unlocked my car. Was Lily in danger? Was that message from my father or, God forbid, my mother? I slid into the driver's seat, heart pounding, mind racing. Lily's earlier text echoed in my head. Please hurry, I don't feel safe. Aunt Margaret climbed into the passenger side. Drive straight there, no stops, no turns. And when we get close, pull over 2 houses away. Why? I croaked. Because if your father sent that message, he's watching the front of the house. A cold chill wrapped around my spine. I turned the key and the engine roared to life. The 20-minute drive felt like 20 seconds and 20 years at the same time. My thoughts spiraled. Why wasn't Lily safe? What happened after I left? What did my parents do or say that made her reach out like that? I gripped the steering wheel harder. All these years, I thought Lily was the lucky one, the favorite, the chosen child. But now I saw cracks I ignored. Moments where she hesitated before speaking. Times she seemed too eager to please, too afraid to disappoint. Had she been living in fear while I lived in confusion? Aunt Margaret broke the silence softly. Vanessa, if we walk into that house today, everything you've thought you knew about your parents will change. I swallowed. It already has. No, she said quietly. Not yet. There's more. My stomach tightened. More? She hesitated. Your father has always been controlling, but in the last few years, it's gotten worse. And your mother, she's become dependent on maintaining the family image at any cost. I clenched my jaw. I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. She nodded. Good, because the truth is the only way out of this. 2 houses away. I parked behind a white minivan 2 houses down from the family home. My heart hammered painfully as I stared at the familiar driveway. The same cracked pavement I used to draw chalk flowers on. The same porch where Lily and I played with our dolls. The same windows that once glowed warm at night. Now, the house looked like a fortress. Cold, heavy, watching. Aunt Margaret leaned forward, scanning. No car in the driveway, she whispered, but that doesn't mean no one's inside. My hand hovered over the door handle. Okay, I said breathlessly. What's the plan? You text Lily first. Ask if she's alone, and if she doesn't reply within a minute, we go in. I typed quickly. Me. Lily, I'm close. Where are you? Are you safe? My thumb trembled as I hit send. Seconds stretched like stretched rubber bands ready to snap. 10 seconds. 30. 40. Then, my phone buzzed. Vanessa, please hurry. I'm in my room. He's in the hallway. My blood froze. He? I breathed. Aunt Margaret's jaw locked. We're going in right now. I didn't waste another second. The house I no longer recognized. We moved quickly but silently up the walkway, avoiding the front windows. The air smelt damp after the storm, but beneath it was something else, a heaviness that raised every hair on my arms. I reached the front door and turned the knob. It wasn't locked. That alone terrified me. We stepped inside. The house was dim, curtains drawn, the air unnaturally still, like the house itself was holding its breath. Aunt Margaret motioned upward. Lily's room. We crept up the stairs one careful step at a time. Halfway up, a floorboard creaked under my foot. We froze. A slow, heavy footstep echoed down the hallway above us. Then another. My breathing turned shallow. Aunt Margaret whispered so quietly I barely heard. Stay behind me. But I couldn't. Fear and adrenaline battled inside me. I needed to get to my sister. Another step echoed, closer this time. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched dark and narrow. Lily's door was half closed. I moved toward it, but before I reached it, I heard a low voice coming from inside. "You're not going anywhere until we finish this conversation." My heart stopped. That was my father's voice. Cold, controlled, and brimming with something I had never heard from him before. Possession. I pushed Lily's door open. "Dad, step away from her." The scene hit me like a punch to the gut. Lily sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, her face streaked with tears. Her hands shook violently. Dad stood in front of her, blocking the doorway, his posture stiff and threatening. When he turned to see me, his eyes went wide with a mixture of surprise and anger. "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" I stepped fully inside. "I'm here for my sister. This is a family discussion. You don't belong in it." I felt those words, sharp and familiar. You don't belong. You don't matter. You're the one who should understand. But this time, I didn't shrink. This is my family. And Lily texted me because she didn't feel safe. Lily looked at me with glassy eyes and whispered, "He's trying to force me to sign something." My stomach dropped. Sign what? Dad stiffened. "It's none of your business." "It is my business." I snapped. "She's an adult. She can decide what she wants to sign." His voice dropped dangerously low. "It's a financial protection agreement for the family. Something your mother and I agreed she needs before she makes more irresponsible choices." Meltdown? Lily whispered. "I confronted them about the loan. I asked them why they did it to you. Dad got angry, really angry." I felt my pulse in my throat. Dad turned to me, eyes hard. "This is exactly why we didn't tell you. You always overreact." A familiar, poisonous line. I swallowed the boiling fury. "No," I said slowly. "What you're really afraid of is losing control." Dad stepped closer to me, face reddening. "You need to leave. Now." I didn't move. Aunt Margaret stepped into the doorway. Her presence alone made Dad's expression shift, anger mixed with panic. "Margaret," he hissed, "you have no right to be here." She stood tall, unfazed. "And you have no right to intimidate these girls." Dad's fists tightened. "This is my family, my home." Aunt Margaret reached into her coat and pulled out the envelope. "Not anymore." His face drained of color. You kept those?" She nodded. "And now Vanessa has copies." The air in the room turned electric. Dad's control, his lifelong armor, began to crack. "You don't understand what this will do," he said, voice shaking. I lifted my chin. "It will do what truth always does, free the people you've been controlling." Lily sobbed into her hands. Dad took one step toward me like he wanted to grab the envelope. Aunt Margaret stepped between us. "If you touch her," she said, voice steady, "I'll take this to the police." For a moment, everything froze. Dad's jaw worked, his chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Then, from downstairs, the front door slammed. All of us jerked around. Dad's face twisted with dread. "Mom." Her voice echoed through the house. "Carl? Carl? They're here. Both of them. The way she screamed, it wasn't fear. It was accusation. Lily whimpered. Aunt Margaret's eyes widened. Dad whispered under his breath, "This is about to get much worse." And for the first time in my life, I believed him. The sound of my mother's voice shook the house. "Carl, Carl, they're here, both of them." I glanced at Aunt Margaret and Lily. Our eyes met, a silent pact forming. We face this together. Dad, Carl Green, froze at the foot of the stairs, his face pale, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Mom's footsteps echoed as she stormed up the stairs, eyes blazing. Her perfectly styled hair looked wild in the chaos. What are you doing here, Vanessa?" she demanded. Her voice cracked. Anger, fear, and disbelief twisted together, making her sound like a stranger. I took a deep breath. "I'm here for the truth, Mom. For me and for Lily." Mom's gaze flicked to Lily, who shrank slightly into the corner of the room. I could see the old fear, the same fear I'd felt growing up, still alive in her sister's eyes. "You don't get it," Dad whispered, voice trembling. "You shouldn't be here. You can't. I've been here my whole life. You just never noticed me, never treated me like I belonged." Aunt Margaret stepped forward, placing the envelope on Dad's desk. "Carl, Vanessa has copies of everything. Every loan, every email, every transaction, every lie you've told to protect your image." His eyes flicked to the envelope, and for a split second, I saw a flash of panic, something I had never witnessed in him before. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. You, that was supposed to be private." "I was a child," I shot back, my voice shaking but firm. "You and Dad destroyed my life, and for what? To make Lily look perfect?" Lily stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Vanessa's right. I didn't know. I didn't know until yesterday, and now I see everything. I'm so sorry." Tears welled in her eyes, and for the first time, I saw my sister not as a rival or obstacle, but another victim of our parents' choices. She had been living in fear, performing happiness just as Aunt Margaret had said. Mom staggered back a step, her composure unraveling. "Carl, you..." She shook her head, tears falling freely. "How could you? How could you let Vanessa suffer all these years?" Dad's jaw clenched. I thought I was protecting the family." His voice cracked. "I never meant for it to hurt her like this." I stepped closer, letting the rage and betrayal that had simmered for years boil to the surface. "Protecting the family? You call stealing my identity and ruining my credit protecting the family? You call ignoring my struggles protecting the family?" Mom's hands shook, reaching for the envelope. "We can fix this. We can make it right." "You didn't make it right, and that's on you. I've spent years rebuilding my life while you pretended everything was fine." Aunt Margaret nodded, her voice calm but deadly serious. "Vanessa is strong enough to protect herself now, and Lily deserves the chance to reclaim her life too." Dad's fists were shaking. "You don't understand. If this goes public..." "Enough," I snapped. "I don't need your permission. I don't need your explanations. I need my life back, and I will make sure you cannot hurt me or Lily again." Lily's hands found mine, gripping tightly. "I'm with you," she said. Mom's lips quivered, but she said nothing. The truth had landed like a stone in the middle of the room, and for the first time, our parents couldn't deflect, couldn't manipulate, couldn't gaslight. Aunt Margaret picked up the envelope, holding it like a shield. "I suggest you sit down. We're going to go through this, step by step. Every lie, every manipulation. And then you're going to face the consequences." Dad's knees buckled slightly, and Mom slumped into a chair. The house, so long a symbol of control, suddenly felt like a cage opening. For the next 2 hours, I watched every secret unravel. Emails proving the loans, statements showing my ruined credit, hidden bank accounts, the truth about Dad's affair. Lily cried silently beside me as the weight of years of deceit pressed down on us both. I didn't know. I really didn't know. I know, but now we do, and now we can take back our lives. Mom's voice shook as she admitted what I had long suspected. I didn't know how to stop him. I didn't know how to protect either of you. I thought I was doing the right thing for the family. Aunt Margaret's eyes were sharp. You were protecting an image, not your children. And that's why you're here, finally being confronted with the truth. Dad's face was red, his lips pressed into a thin line. You think this is the end for me? I shook my head. No, but it's the beginning of boundaries. It's the beginning of consequences. And it's the silence of invisible suffering we're finally broken. Healing begins. After the confrontation, I sat with Lily in her room. The storm from the morning had passed, leaving a bright, cold light streaming through the curtains. I never thought I'd feel safe here, she said quietly. Even though this is my home, I was scared of them. You're not alone anymore, and you won't be. We spent hours talking, crying, and for the first time, laughing. Not the forced laughter I remembered from childhood, but real, healing laughter. Aunt Margaret stayed close, guiding us through the paperwork, ensuring our lives and our finances were secure. She helped us file disputes, correct my credit, and create real boundaries with our parents. It wasn't easy. It wasn't painful. But each step forward was a step toward freedom. Weeks passed. The house no longer felt like a prison. The letters and documents we uncovered became shields, protecting us from future manipulation. Dad and Mom attempted to reach out, but we had grown stronger. Their calls went unanswered. Our boundaries were firm. Lily started therapy to process years of fear and manipulation. I enrolled in a financial literacy course to finally master the credit and investments that had been used against me. And slowly, I began to see what Aunt Margaret had meant all those years ago. The truth doesn't destroy families. Secrets do. We couldn't change the past, but we could reclaim our future. One night, I sat down and wrote another letter. This one wasn't meant to expose or accuse. It was meant to heal. Dear Lily, I wrote, we've both carried this burden for too long. But now, it's ours to lay down. I see you. I understand you. And I will always protect you. Together, we are stronger than their lies, stronger than their control. Let's live the lives we were always meant to live, free, whole, and unafraid. I left it on her pillow. The next morning, she hugged me tightly, tears streaming. She whispered, "You're not just my sister. You're my safe place." And for the first time in years, I felt it. Home wasn't a house. Home was the people who saw you, really saw you, and stood by you no matter what. I want to share this with anyone who's ever felt invisible in their own family. Boundaries are life-saving. Protect yourself from those who manipulate or belittle you. The truth is powerful. Even when it hurts, even when it's late, it frees you. Family doesn't always mean safety, but it can mean love if you choose to protect and nurture it. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Take it one step at a time. I don't have all the answers. I still stumble sometimes, but I've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to face it head on. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? A family member? A friend? A partner? How did you reclaim your power? Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that truth, courage, and love, real love, are always worth the fight.